The season from hell continues. It's been an awful start to the 2024-2025 season for Philadelphia, and now this morning, it got worse. Tyrese Maxey expected to miss multiple weeks due to a hamstring injury that he suffered last night. In that loss, another defeat against the Los Angeles Clippers. Charania breaking the news just moments ago on this Thursday, November 7th. And once I saw that notification watching the game last night, I just knew it wasn't going to be good. 76ers All-Star Tyrese Maxey expected to miss a couple of weeks because of a right hamstring injury. Sources tell ESPN. Full evaluation coming later Thursday, but sides are bracing for Maxey's absence, and the Sixers will take careful approach with this injury. More from Shams here that Max is going to need to take his time. This is a soft tissue injury. The Sixers are going to take it very, very seriously, and they will make sure he's 100% when he comes back to the floor. And when I say that so far it has been a season from hell for Philadelphia, that's exactly what it's been. Right before Chip and I were going to start this show, we had said it just never stops with this team. It just never stops. You had the Paul George bone bruise in the preseason. Joel Embiid hurt. We never got an update. The NBA had to investigate Philadelphia for us to actually understand what was going on. And then it gets revealed that he's dealing with a knee issue. Then he gets suspended for pushing Marcus Hayes in the locker room. Tyrese Maxey was starting to play well the last couple of games after a slow start. Now he hurts his hamstring, and with his speed, explosiveness, agility, that's a bad injury for him. And guess where Philadelphia is? 1-6, last place in the East. Now, the New York Knicks only have 3 wins. The Boston Celtics are 7-2. It's not like Philadelphia is so far behind some of the other playoff-level teams in the Eastern Conference, and it is still very early. But at some point, when does it become too great to climb out of too large of a hole? It just never stops with this team. My entire lifetime. Injuries, not fulfilling expectations, losing heartbreakers, shooting themselves in the foot. There is always something that happens with Philadelphia, and they are just a cursed basketball team. I said it on yesterday's show. They're like the NFL version of the Dallas Cowboys. Rich history. They've won a lot previously. Huge brand. Big fan base. Star players. But there's just always something happening with them. And Maxey this year, the efficiency number is not great, but I'll tell you what, they were starting to get a little bit better over the last few games. 40.5% from the field, sub 29% from 3. At least he was averaging 27.5 points per game, just under 4 dimes. And so now when you're without him, Paul George will have to elevate his game. Joel Embiid, once he comes back, obviously going to have to play well. You're going to need a Kyle Lowry, Reggie Jackson, Jared McCain to step up a little bit. Either way, though, Chip, this sucks. And I had told you, oh, there's the update from Shams, and I gave you the information, and you just sunk your head, and then you put your head up like this, hands on your head, you're like, again. And that's the reaction from all Sixers fans and everybody who's watching the show right now.
Yeah, it sucks, one, for Tyrese Maxey. It sucks for this team, this city, the fans. This season was supposed to be different. This season was supposed to be the year where the good vibes were coming rolling into the year. You make all these moves, you get Paul George, you get the surrounding pieces, and the vibes were good. At least we thought.
Yep.
And then everything that's happened as we laid out to start the season, and the Sixers just cannot ever seem to play a normal season of basketball. It's impossible for this team. And now, you look at what they're going to have to deal with moving forward. Hopefully Joel Embiid comes back Tuesday against the Knicks, and they can figure some things out. But so far, the offense has been atrocious besides one game against the Phoenix Suns on Monday where they looked like they were moving the ball. They had a vision on offense. They knew what they wanted to do. But then Wednesday against the Clippers, it all just came crashing back down to earth in that second half where they scored, I think, 16 points in the third quarter, maybe 30 points the entire second half. There was no ball movement once again. Nobody to create their own shot besides Maxey and Paul George. And now you're looking at this team and you're like, well, these next 2 games against the Lakers and the Hornets, it's pretty much going to be the Paul George show. The supporting cast really hasn't been all that great besides in moments. Some of these players have had individual moments, but haven't been able to be consistent. Caleb Martin can't shoot the basketball. It looks like something's going on with his shoulder, with his shot. I mean, he was missing free throws and threes left and right. Like, Yabusele didn't have the impact against the Clippers that he did against the Suns. And everybody has just been really inconsistent. So now Nick Nurse, you got to find a way to keep this team afloat. Hopefully when Embiid comes back, we see, a different team. And I do expect the offense to be way, way better, and the defense as well when Embiid's in there. But I just so feel so bad for Maxey. Of course, we finally start to see Embiid's coming back Tuesday. Nope, Maxey's out. So we'll see. Hopefully this season doesn't start going off the rails, but they're going to have to figure some things out if they want to win some games and get back on track without Tyrese Maxey.
Another thing with that game, too, last night, Sixers were turning it over a lot, and then the Clippers were capitalizing with points off of turnovers. And then secondly, it's the year of the hamstring in Philadelphia. I mean, you think back to the Philly season. Bryce Harper, Brandon Marsh, Trey Turner, A.J. Brown for the Eagles, Devontae Smith, now Tyrese Maxey, your boy Chase Sr. I've been dealing with the hamstring injury for months. I can't get rid of it. Send some love to Maxey. Type 0 down in the comment section. Wish him a speedy recovery. Coming up on the other side, how the Sixers can survive without Tyrese Maxey. Myself and Chip, we have a lot of thoughts. Our sponsor for today's show, our friends at DraftKings, the most elite and go-to sportsbook in the game. Right now, when you bet $5, you get $200 instantly in bonus bets, but you have to use the promo code SixersChat. The NBA is finally back. A new season means new ways to get into the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Who's draining threes from beyond the arc? Who's crashing the boards and grabbing rebounds? Get behind your favorite players and the prop bets that you can make on DraftKings, the home of NBA player props. First time, new DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Every point counts with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code SixersChat. That's code SixersChat for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5, only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/bball. And let's take a look at some award favorites here. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, MVP, plus 280. Rookie of the Year. Zachary Rissache, plus 350. Most Improved Player, Jalen Johnson, plus 650. Defensive Player of the Year, Victor Wembanyama, plus 100. And Sixth Man of the Year, Peyton Pritchard, at 4-1. So bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets. Use that code SixersChat. We want DraftKings to be a part of the chat sports empire for a long time, and we can make that happen if we get as many people as possible to use that code SixersChat so that they know that Chat Sports sent you. All right, Chip. How Philadelphia can survive here without the services of Tyrese Maxey, who's going to be out the next few weeks because of a hamstring injury that he suffered on Wednesday against the Los Angeles Clippers. Joel Embiid has to serve a 3-game suspension. 1 game down after he missed that game against the Clippers. But once he comes back, he's going to have to play at an MVP type of level. You can still win games with Joel Embiid, Paul George, and some of the other complementary pieces. Of course, those other complementary pieces are going to need to be a little bit more consistent. But last year, Embiid, when healthy, was playing at an MVP level. Even when he was banged up against the New York Knicks, he was still playing at a really high level, averaging more than 30 points per game during that first-round series. There's really not a lot of wiggle room thanks to the Sixers getting off to this slow start, and Embiid's going to have to ball out from the jump.
Yeah, not going to have a lot of time to settle in here. And hopefully with all the time he's had off and then being careful and precautious with his injury, he is a little more ready to go having lost some weight. But we've already seen this season, and we see it year after year, how important Embiid is to this team. It doesn't matter what they do. When he's not on the floor, they can't win games. But when he is on the floor, he makes such an impact, offensively, defensively. If he plays at his highest level, which he should be able to, I believe, is capable of now, having missed this first part of the season, there's no reason this team can't beat pretty much any other team. The combination of Embiid and Paul George should still be enough to get you some wins, but they don't really have much of a choice. They have to go out there. They have to get it done. And there's a lot of new pieces on this team that Embiid hasn't played with. And, finding that chemistry with Paul George, some of these new guys, normally it might take a little bit, but they got to figure it out sooner rather than later.
For Paul George, you were given a max contract because you are a star player in this league. Some of the young generation stars at the NBA level think PG is their GOAT as compared to LeBron James or Steph Curry. He's coming off a career year. This is a team that has Super Bowl aspirations. They paid Paul George because he's looked at as one of the top players in the NBA and one of the top two-way players in the NBA. He has played on far worse teams throughout his career compared to the Sixers team, even without Tyrese Maxey. And now he's going to have to earn that max money. Two-way player, three-level scorer. He's going to have his hands on the basketball a little bit more, having to create for himself and others. And we talk so much about how PG and Maxey were going to be able to carry the load when Embiid was resting or inevitably hurt. Now Maxey's out, and Paul George's going to have to carry the load.
Yeah, look, I believe he absolutely can be that second option. Of course, he was brought in here to be kind of that third star option on this team, but I think he's more than talented enough to be your secondary go-to option and your first kind of perimeter ball handler. We saw game one, he was shaking off the rust, didn't shoot very well. But against the Clippers, he was super, super efficient. Knocked down a couple threes, was getting his shot off in the mid-range, got to the basket a couple times, hit an and one. The problem right now is the Sixers have him on a little bit of a minutes restriction. Nick Nurse was saying last night in the Clippers game somewhere from 25 to 32 minutes. So 2 more games for him to kind of ramp up until Embiid is back. But he's going to have to, again, earn that money and show why the Sixers paid him so much. They brought him in part because they knew Embiid was going to miss some time. So him and Maxey were going to be able to run that 2-man game and give this team some wins. That didn't happen without Embiid. But now without Maxey, to me, it's no different. You're still missing one of your stars. He has to show on both ends of the floor, offensively and defensively, because defense has been a little shaky so far, again, still getting over that injury, that he can be that guy, he can be that all-star level player in order for this team to win some games and rise up in the East.
Yeah, against the Clippers, you talk about that efficiency. 7 of 9 from the field, 2 of 3 from 3, only 24 minutes, 18.7 boards, 2 assists, 3 steals, and a block. A very good all-around performance from him. And as you mentioned, he's going to get some more tick, and hopefully that equals more production. Without Tyrese Maxey, who are the replacements? Kyle Lowry and then Reggie, right? And so Lowry, Reggie, they're going to have to run the show a little bit. And Kyle Lowry, veteran in this league, the extension of Nick Nurse on the floor, he really is that type of head coach and leader. I think that Kyle Lowry has been pretty good this year. Against the Clippers, he was 0 for in 20 minutes, but he's certainly capable of stepping up. And then for Reggie Jackson, I imagine the Sixers are going to give him a little bit more leeway to create a little bit, have more of a role. He's really barely been playing for the Sixers this year. He's averaging a point per game and, 6.3 minutes per game. But with Maxey out, you're going to be missing that offensive punch. That's 27 points per game right there. You're going to have to make it up in a couple of areas.
Yeah, and look, Maxey was leading the league in shot attempts heading into last night's game. He was the entire Sixers offense, especially without Paul George on the floor. But even when Paul George came back and with Maxey on the floor, this team really, really struggled offensively to get going in the half court. It was already a big problem for them. And now you're losing your primary ball handler. So now it falls on the shoulders of 2 veteran guys who I think are at least capable of running an offense and getting people in the right spot. Lowry, Reggie Jackson. Lowry, before the Clippers game, was shooting like 50, 60% from 3. He was having a good start to the year. again, as you said, Reggie Jackson has barely played. Got a little bird in not crunch time, garbage time last night against the Clippers. But this is what you bring in Reggie Jackson for, and why you brought back Lowry, to have these veteran presences to be able to run your offense. So looking at those two, and then a young player as well, we'll talk about in a second, to handle some of the ball handling duties for this team and hopefully get this offense going, because it's been a struggle so far for the Sixers in the half court.
That young player that you speak of, it's their first-round pick in Jared McCain, who surprisingly this year, Nick Nurse has actually given some decent minutes to him. He's averaging 11.3 minutes per game, and he's doing a lot with those minutes. He's averaging 6.7 points per game in those 11 minutes. Now, 46% from the field, 25% from three, but now with Tyrese Maxey out, I would imagine that those minutes go up to 15, 20, and he's that player who doesn't have the explosion or the lightning quickness of Tyrese Maxey. He does have some range, though, at that guard spot and an ability to create a little bit.
Yeah, I like what I've seen from McCain early in the season and the limited minutes he's played. In the preseason, he showed a lot of confidence, not afraid to shoot. And in Sixers training camp, Joel Embiid said that McCain was the best player, period, during training camp. He got a lot of rave reviews from coaches and players alike during that early part of the season. So now I'm looking at him, not to take over games and be this team's lead ball handler, but can you show some of that shot-making ability that you showed at Duke? He's been a little more versatile where, he can get to the rim a little bit. He can fight on defense despite being smaller. A lot of us thought he would struggle defensively when he entered the NBA, and he has a little bit, but he makes up for the lack of size he has with good IQ, good instincts, and he's tough and he fights. He can get rebounds. So he's going to have an opportunity now to play a few more minutes. He's been kind of the last guy in the regular rotation for the Sixers. Didn't play until late in the fourth quarter in last night's game for Nick Nurse, but I do expect him to get more minutes along with Eric Gordon. So can you, one, hit open shots? Can you create for others? Can you create for yourself? It's a great chance for him to prove himself, and if he can, I think this team, can get a couple wins, but he can also earn himself more minutes in the regular rotation once Tyrese Maxey does return.
And coming up at number 5, Nick Nurse has to get this offense going. Now, a lot of people think of him as a defensive head coach. He's certainly very good on that end of the floor, but Nick Nurse was actually a really good three-point shooter when he was playing in college, and he's done a really good job of helping offensive players really develop. The Sixers offense, it's a difficult job for Nick Nurse to have to coach this team with Tyrese Maxey leading the NBA in field goal attempts to start the year. You don't have Joel Embiid. You don't have Paul George. These other players aren't stepping up. They're not making shots. But this is what coaches are paid for, to put your players in a position to succeed, to try to find a way to keep your head above water when you're dealing with some adversity, and you have to string together some wins. And that falls on the head coach. That's his job, and he would probably tell you that as well.
Yeah, I have a lot of confidence in Nick Nurse. I think he's one of the better coaches in the NBA. He's very, very well respected around the league, especially for, his making in-game adjustments and such. But look, the Sixers offense, there's no other way to put it, has not been good to start the year. I understand, it's tough for a coach coming in. You're missing your best player to start the season. You're missing Paul George to start the season. And there's a lot of new pieces, a lot of things to figure out offensively, right? Guys that haven't played together, guys playing in a new system. But at some point, you got to figure out ways to create open looks. One of the things I've noticed is, besides the game against the Suns, the Sixers have been unable to create good looks. Caleb Martin, entering last night's game, was second to last in shot quality. So he was taking some of the hardest shots out of all players in the NBA. Stuff that you expect stars, like DeMar DeRozan, I believe, was number 1 in that list. Things that you expect stars to do. Caleb Martin wasn't getting open looks, and this team as a whole hasn't gotten open looks. So now without Maxey, that's just one less player that can kind of bail you out in certain situations and create his own shot. What can you implement on the offensive side of the ball to get players moving, to get the ball moving, to get some easy looks at the basket, to get some easy looks from three? Because outside of Paul George now, and until Embiid's back, you don't really have anybody that can create their own shot, so you're going to have to draw up some plays and get some easy looks so this team can actually start scoring the basketball.
5 ways how Philadelphia can survive without Tyrese Maxey. These next couple of weeks going to be critical in determining where the Sixers go this year. It's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out, and we'll be here with you every step of the way, regardless of if they win or lose. Can the Sixers team survive without Maxey? Y for yes, N for no. What say you? Sound off down in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe. And thank you so much for watching the show.